Hi everyone, it's Miss Leah back for another story time. Hope you guys are having a great day. I have a poem to share and a little piece of nature and a story. Today we're going to be reading another Beatrix Potter story. We read one of the first days that we told our story time. Today's story is The Tale of Squirrel Nutkin, which is one of my favorites. I don't know if we'll get through the whole thing. It's a little bit long, so we'll see how we're doing on time. Okay? So, before we get going, my yard is starting to be in full bloom. My magnolia tree is already shedding some of its flowers, and the peach tree in my neighbor's yard is full of big pink flowers, and our daffodils are up in the front, and our tulips are blooming, and our hostas are starting to peek out of the ground as they come back every year. And we've got little purple flowers on some of our greenery, our ground cover. So it's starting to get a little bit more green and alive and colorful out there. The sun's out today. It's a little chillier than yesterday, but it's still a beautiful day. And yesterday we read our story about the bees, and I don't have any bee things to show you, but I do have a paper wasp nest that I picked up sometime. And sometimes I keep random things because that's what Miss Leah does. I have a nature table outside. And so I wanted to show you guys this. This is from a paper wasp. Can you see that? Now, it's not really like a bee's nest at all. Only thing that's really similar is that the paper wasp also makes the shapes of hexagons. A hexagon is like a circle, but instead of it being just a smooth line all the way around, it actually has 6 sides. So they fit together like a little puzzle. And a paper wasp will make their nest out of dead branches or parts of old trees, and they actually have spit, and they spit it and they mix it with the wood, and then they make these nests for themselves. And these nests are actually pretty waterproof, and so it's a good place for them to have their babies, and their babies live in each of those little holes, and that's what they do. So it is like a little home for the baby paper wasps. So I thought I would show you guys that. And I have a poem. We don't have a cherry tree in our yard, but like I said, we have a peach tree. And it has pink flowers on our peach tree. And we're hoping we'll get some peaches later this summer. Last year we didn't get very many, so sometimes you don't get peaches every year. So this might be a good year for our peaches. Okay. Oh, fair to see. Oh, fair to see bloom-laden cherry tree, arrayed in sunny white, an April's day delight. Oh, fair to see. Oh, fair to see fruit-laden cherry tree with balls of shining red, decking a leafy head. Oh, fair to see. Christina Rossetti. And here's another Christina Rossetti poem called Clouds. White sheep, on a blue hill. When the wind stops, you all stand still. When the wind blows, you walk away slow. White sheep, where do you go? There is our poem for today. I hope you guys are keeping busy at your house. I know it's getting a little bit harder at ours to stay all cooped up inside. So hopefully you guys are finding some creative things to do. So I'd love to hear what you guys are doing at your houses. Okay? All right, this is the story of Squirrel Nutkin, and he's kind of a mischievous squirrel. He's kind of getting himself into some trouble. So we're going to find out what happens between Squirrel Nutkin and the owl. Are you ready? This is a tale about a tale that belonged to a little red squirrel, and his name was Nutkin. He had a brother called Twinkleberry, and a great many cousins. They lived in a wood at the edge of a lake. In the middle of the lake, there is an island covered with trees and nut bushes, and among those trees stands a hollow oak tree, which is the house of an old owl who is called Old Brown. One autumn, when the nuts were ripe and the leaves on the hazel bushes were golden and green, Nutkin and Twinkleberry and all the other little squirrels came out of the wood and down to the edge of the lake. They made little rafts out of twigs, and they paddled away over the water to Owl Island to gather nuts. Each squirrel had a little sack and a large oar, and spread out his tail for a sail. They also took with them an offering of 3 fat mice as a present for Old Brown, and they put them down upon his doorstep. Then Twinkleberry and the other little squirrels each made a low bow and said politely, "Old Mr. Brown, will you favor us with permission to gather nuts upon your island?" But Nutkin was excessively impertinent in his manners. He bobbed up and down like a little red cherry, singing, "Riddle me riddly, rot-tot-tote, a little wee man and a red, red coat, a staff in his hand and a stone in his throat. If you'll tell me this riddle, I'll give you a groat." Now, this riddle is as old as the hills. Mr. Brown paid no attention whatever to Nutkin. He shut his eyes obstinately and went to sleep. There's some of the pictures. The squirrels filled their little sacks with nuts and sailed away home in the evening. But again, the next morning they came back to Owl Island, and Twinkleberry and the others brought a fine fat mole and laid it on the stone in front of Old Brown's doorway and said, "Mr. Brown, will you favor us with your gracious permission to gather some more nuts?" But Nutkin, who had no respect, began to dance up and down, ticking old Mr. Brown with a nettle and singing, "Old Mr. B, riddle me ree, hitty-pitty within the wall, hitty-pitty without the wall. If you touch hitty-pitty, hitty-pitty will bite you." Mr. Brown woke up suddenly and carried the mole into his house. He shut the door in Nutkin's face. Presently, a little thread of blue smoke from a wood fire came up from the top of the tree, and Nutkin peeped through the keyhole and sang, "A house full, a hole full, and you cannot gather a bowl full." The squirrels searched for nuts all over the island and filled their little sacks. But Nutkin gathered oak apples, yellow and scarlet, and sat upon a beech stump, playing marbles, and watching the door of old Mr. Brown. On the 3rd day, the squirrels got up very early and went fishing. They caught 7 fat minnows as a present for Old Brown. They paddled over the lake and landed under the crooked chestnut tree on Owl Island. Twinkleberry and 6 other little squirrels each carried a fat minnow, but Nutkin, who had no nice manners, brought no present at all. He ran in front singing, "The man in the wilderness said to me, 'How many strawberries grow in the sea?' I answered him as I thought good, 'As many red herrings as grow in the wood.'" But old Mr. Brown took no interest in riddles, not even when the answer was provided for him. On the 4th day, the squirrels brought a present of 6 fat beetles, which were as good as plums in pudding for Old Brown. Each beetle was wrapped up carefully in a dock leaf fastened with a pine needle pin, but Nutkin sang as rudely as ever, "Old Mr. B, riddle me ree, flower of England, fruit of Spain, met together in a shower of rain, put in a bag tied round with string. If you'll tell me this riddle, I'll give you a ring." Which was ridiculous of Nutkin's, because he had not got any ring to give to old Mr. Brown. The other squirrels hunted up and down the nut bushes, but Nutkin, he gathered robin's pincushions off a briar bush and stuck them full of pine needle pins. On the 5th day, the squirrels brought a present of wild honey. It was so sweet and sticky that they licked their fingers as they put it down upon the stone. They had stolen it out of a bumblebee's nest in the tippity-top of the hill. But Nutkin skipped up and down, singing, "Hum-a-bum, buzz, buzz, hum-a-buzz." As I went over Tipple-tine, I met a flock of bonny swine, some yellow-nacked, some yellow-backed. They were the very bonniest swine that e'er went over Tipple-tine. Old Mr. Brown turned up his eyes in disgust at the impertinence of Nutkin, but he ate up the honey. The squirrels filled their little sacks with nuts, but Nutkin sat upon a big flat rock and played ninepins with a crabapple and green fir cones. On the 6th day, which was Saturday, the squirrels came again for the last time. They brought a new-laid egg in a little rush basket as a last parting present for Old Brown. But Nutkin ran in front laughing and shouting. Humpty Dumpty lies in the beck with a white counterpane around his neck. 40 doctors and 40 wrights cannot put Humpty Dumpty to rights. Now, old Mr. Brown took an interest in eggs. He opened one eye and shut it again, but still he did not speak. Nutkin became more and more impertinent. Old Mr. B, hickamore on a king's kitchen door. All the king's horses and all the king's men couldn't drive hickamore off the king's kitchen door. Nutkin danced up and down like a sunbeam, but still Old Brown said nothing at all. Nutkin began again. Arthur O'Bower has broken his band. He comes roaring up the land. The King of Scots, with all his power, cannot turn Arthur of the Bower. Nutkin made a worried noise to sound like the wind, and he took a running jump right into the head of old Mr. Brown. Then, all at once, there was a flutterment and a scufflement and a loud squeak. The other squirrels scuttered away into the bushes. And when they came back, very cautiously, peeping round the tree, there was Old Brown sitting on his doorstep, quite still, with his eyes closed as if nothing had happened. But Nutkin was in his waistcoat pocket. This looks like the end of the story, but it isn't. Old Brown carried Nutkin into his house and held him up by the tail, intending to skin him. But Nutkin pulled so very hard that his tail broke in two, and he dashed up the staircase and escaped out of the attic window. And to this day, if you meet Nutkin up a tree and ask him a riddle, he will throw sticks at you and stamp his feet and scold and shout, The end. So, what happened to Squirrel Nutkin when he bothered Old Brown for one too many times? Did he lose his tail? He did, but he almost lost more than his tail, didn't he? Luckily, he got away with just a short little nubbin of a tail. I hope you guys enjoyed that story. I think it's kind of a funny one, a little bit silly. So I will see you guys tomorrow. Hope that you have a wonderful rest of your day. Get outside and enjoy the day. Bye-bye.